On this week's LoyalTV, we're back in Guthrie, where we invite you to one of the biggest weddings in the state of Oklahoma.
It was a day of celebration.
Officials from the Indian Territory were here. Officials from Oklahoma Territory were here.
There were celebrations planned all over the state, in every county and every major city.
There was a man named Jack Love that chartered railroad cars, and he brought orphan kids from Woodward to attend this event because he knew this was something they would remember for their entire lives. November the 16th, 1907, at 9:16 in the morning, a telegraph comes into the state capitol newspaper and informs the state of Oklahoma that Theodore Roosevelt has signed the Statehood bill creating this new state of Oklahoma.
Bringing Indian and Oklahoma Territory together was a very challenging prospect. You have a very unique set of people in Indian Territory. And then once Oklahoma Territory opens up, it was mostly populated with people from Kansas, from Indiana, Illinois. These were Northern Republicans. They were the progressives of the era. You have a lot of Union veterans in Oklahoma Territory.
You know, Oklahoma Territory was created because of the boomer movement, you know, trying to get the lands opened up for non-native settlement. The Indian Territory would have been, you know, like I said, the lands of the 5 civilized tribes, and it had always been their policy to try to limit the access of non-natives into the Indian Territory.
From the two, they're really polar opposites, examples of basically any political or cultural conversation going on at that time.
The coming together of these two territories are totally important for the success of this future state. Oklahoma Territory was more agrarian in its economy than the Indian Territory. The Indian Territory had these vast reserves of natural resources. And I'm not even talking about oil. You know, I mean like lead and zinc and coal that were being mined, plus there's timber. So there's these two different forms of economy that are going to come together to form the state.
The marriage of the twin territories occurred November 16th, 1907, out on the front steps of the Carnegie Library.
The marriage ceremony represents the coming together of the Oklahoma Territory and the Indian Territory. In this ceremony, we actually have a bride and a groom. Anna Bennet, who represented the Indian Territory in the ceremony, was from Muskogee.
She was seen as being one of the most beautiful women in Indian Territory.
And then on the Oklahoma Territory side, it was Charles Gristmill Jones. And he had come to Oklahoma Territory soon after the land run and built the first flour mill in Oklahoma City.
So he proposed to Miss Indian Territory, and then she accepted, and they started the wedding march, and they held this symbolic marriage of the two entities joining together to become the state of Oklahoma.
For all intents and purposes, this was a real wedding officiated by real people, with the exception of signing all the legal documents that would bind this man and woman together.
That day, there was a crowd that was 35,000 people, and Guthrie's population is just about 13,000 at the turn of the century.
This was one of those, you know, patriotic events with, you know, the red, white, and blue bunting all over everything, and the men are dressed in their finest suits, and the ladies are dressed in their, you know, their finest dresses. This was one of those things where not only are you going to celebrate, but you are going to be seen.
Miss Indian Territory, she was very fashion forward. Her dress was high couture, specifically made for her. It probably cost, in today's money, about $100,000 to have it made. They were dressed very modern fashions, and they did this on purpose because they wanted to dispel the idea that Oklahoma Territory, that Indian Territory, were backwards countryside, that they were uncivilized. They wanted to tell everybody that they were cutting edge.
Once the marriage ceremony was over, there was a parade. And as it was stated in the newspaper, the Union veterans and the Confederate veterans marched together side by side down the streets. It was part of that healing process of the Civil War. And so yeah, was it successful? Yeah, it was. You know, we brought together these two great people, we healed wounds, and we became all the better for it.
We hope you enjoyed the party and that you'll join us next week here on LoyalTV.